Welcome everyone to the fifth installment of the Cook Like a Rebel. I am so excited to be here. This is my very first event, and I know that a lot of people have been attending these and having a really good time, so hopefully today will not be a disappointment. My name is Kelly Messina, and I'm one of the board members for the Hospitality Alumni Chapter. I also serve as treasurer. I graduated from UNLV back in 1990. I know it seems like so long ago. And currently I work for the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority. Graduated, of course, from the Hera College of Hospitality, and I worked in the industry since 1990 and love it still. So just for today, we have a wonderful chef who's here with us, our guest chef, Chef Marc Ty, and he is going to prepare a delicious pan-seared chicken in a mustard sauce with rice pilaf and charred Brussels sprouts. Now, Marc is actually a native of Las Vegas, born and raised here, and that's something that's so rare. So that's an amazing thing. But even more amazing than that, he's been in the culinary industry for just 10 years, but he was able to compete in the 2020 IKA Culinary Olympics in Stuttgart, Germany, and as one of the sous chefs of the Culinary Olympic team. And they received a silver and a bronze medal. And I want to emphasize how important that is and how prestigious, because the Culinary Olympics are a very, very grueling competition. So congratulations to you, Marc. That's just absolutely amazing. Chef Marc also began working for UNLV this year as a newly appointed chef for the Fertitta Football Complex, cooking for our UNLV student athletes. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Chef Marc, and he's going to teach you the ways of the kitchen.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. I can't wait to, hold on. I do apologize about that, everyone. I have my niece is over right now and she's being fussy. But yeah, so today I'll be cooking for you guys. If you have any questions, please feel free to let everyone know in chat, and then they'll relay those questions to me as I'm cooking. We'll have certain sections where you can ask as I am cooking. I'll do my best to answer all of them, and I hope we have a good time today. So how this is going to work is I'm going to first initially start right here. Where we're going to do most of our mise en place. And mise en place is just something you want to do before you start cooking. It means everything in place, right? So you want to make sure you have everything ready before you start cooking, because you don't want to burn any food when you start cooking. And then we'll move over to the stove and we'll start getting cooking over there, okay? All right, and then so we'll go ahead and get going. So today we've got rice pilaf, we have the pan-seared chicken, and then we also have the charred Brussels sprouts. So I'm going to start out with the prep for the rice pilaf. What we're going to do is we're going to start a basic mirepoix, which has celery, carrots, and onions. All right. First thing you want to do before you start cooking, always, you want to wash your hands. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Important right now to wash your hands in this time. 20 seconds. Get in there, scrub in between your fingers. You're going to be handling food, so you want to make sure your hands are clean as well. All right. Dry. And then since we're going to be dealing with celery and carrots, one of the things you want to make sure you're doing, because celery and carrots, they come out of the ground, you want to give those a quick wash in some cold running water. And get those ready for ready to go as well. All right. So I have here, I've already cut and peeled an onion in half, because we're not going to need a whole lot of onion today. We're making a small batch of rice pilaf. So I have half an onion cut and peeled, ready to go. What we're going to do is, and I'm going to adjust the camera real quick. That way you can see what I'm doing a little bit better, is we're going to go for a nice little small dice. I've already cut some carrots and celery ahead of time, ready to go. So you'll see that it's a nice small bite-sized dice right here. All right, and that's what we're going to do with the onions. One of the best ways to do it is you're going to take your half-cut onion, place it down. Make sure when you're always cutting, you work with your 3 fingers, all right? You want to protect the rest of your hand with the front knuckle of your middle finger. You know, do like this little claw technique, right? So with the onion, we're going to start going down nice thin slices. Don't go all the way through at the end. You want to go about 3/4 of the way through. And as you're cutting, just go through and slice, slice, keeping the onion together. And then you're going to go right in half, halfway down. And that's how you're going to get your nice diced onions right there. So you're not going to need all of the onion. So I'm going to put some of that aside. All right. And then I'm going to take my diced onion and I'm going to put it in a dish ready to go. All right. And then you're going to do the same thing for the carrots and the celery. So I'll show you how to do that as well. So I take that clean celery that I had, that nice little clean celery stalk. All right, if there is still a root or dirty top or end on it, just go ahead and clean it off. So I'll take just a little bit off the top and bottom. Get those out of the way. And then I'll take it. I lay it like this, and then I like to slice, just like this. And you'll just follow the way the celery grows. And then take it, line it up, make sure everything's lined up, ready to go, and just slice right through. Let the knife do the work. You're going for a small dice. You want everything to be about the same size as you're cutting. Okay? So there we go. Put that with the rest of our celery. Perfect. And then we're going to do the same for the carrot. So I have here the carrot that I washed. I'm going to go ahead and peel that next. Okay. Take the strings, put those off to the side. All right, and then you're going to top and tail the carrot as well. So you're going to take the bottom and the top off. And then what I like to do with carrots, because they're round, they're kind of hard to deal with, I like to cut it in half. Take the smaller side, put that away for right now, and then find a nice little flat, a way that the carrot won't move. And then I like to slice it once, turn it, and then that's how we're going to get our dice for the carrot. So we're going to get these nice, sort of even, flat chunks like that, so that it's easier surfaces to cut on. And then I'm going to take the 2 halves. You're going to line up the halves that you had, and then you're going to cut little carrot sticks out of them. So I have this one, and you should end up with something like that right there. Okay, so we're going to do a nice little dice with some of the carrots we have here. Always watching your fingers. You don't want to cut your fingers. And I'm going to put those right in there with our carrots. All right. So put those to the side because I'm not going to need all of that as I already had some cut. And then we're going to get, so now that's the mirepoix. That is for our rice pilaf. We're going to saute those and then toast the rice after we've sauteed these vegetables. So that's done. Next, we're going to move on to the Brussels sprout dish. Now, the Brussels sprouts, you can go find these anywhere. They're delicious. I don't like to boil Brussels sprouts. I like to have a nice little char on it. Bring some great flavor out of them. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the Brussels sprouts. Sometimes they have dirty ends or dirty bottoms like this one right here. I just like to take a little bit off the bottom, and then I cut them in half. And that's all we do for the Brussels sprouts. Go ahead. So, and then I'm going to set those off to the side. As you see, I have all the Brussels sprouts ready to go right there. All right. So we got our rice pilaf. We got our Brussels sprouts cut. Now I have some sides, some things that we're going to add to the Brussels sprouts. And that's just to give them a little bit of color and add a little more depth of flavor to the dish itself. So what I'm going to do as well, so I'm going to take our carrot and we're going to cut it on a bias. All right. Now, the reason we're going to cut it on a bias is, one, it cooks faster, and a bias means I'm cutting it at an angle. So you see how it's cut like that, and then it ends up like this. Cutting it on a bias will allow it to cook faster, because we're not going to add it in right when we start the Brussels sprouts. When we start the Brussels sprouts, we're going to get them a nice little char, and then we're going to turn them over, and then we'll add in the carrots, and then what we're at after that is some shallots. All right, so those will cook pretty fast, so you don't have to worry about that. And then all the vegetables in the dish, they're going to have a nice little bite to them. So that's what we're looking for. We don't want them to be overly cooked so they're mushy. Okay, so I have our carrots. That's for the Brussels, for a nice little color. Then we're going to take our shallots. I have cut the shallots in half. All right, it makes it an easier surface to cut on. And we're going to do the same thing we've done with all the vegetables so far. Is to take the top and bottom off. And then we're just going to do a nice little, what we call in the industry, a little bit of a julienne slice. We're just going to go down and make nice little thin slices all the way down. You want to turn it after you get it to like there, and then you turn it down like that. So you get nice little thin slices of shallots. Now the reason we're using shallots over the onions, shallots are a little bit sweeter. They're not as strong flavored as like a white onion would be. So we're going to go with some shallots that adds a little bit to the Brussels sprouts. Okay. All right. There we go. All right. So clean off your board, clean up your area. One of the key things when you're cooking is you always want to make sure you're cleaning as you're going, because at the end you want to be able to enjoy your dish. You don't want to have to clean up too much after you're done eating. So what I like to do is I clean as I go. I've got all of the vegetable prep right here, and you always start with vegetable prep because next we're going to move on to the chicken. So vegetable prep is done. I'm going to move this over to the back. Straighten this out. These are all savable stuff. This is the scraps. You'll notice like right now I have like paper towel under the board. That's so that the boards don't slip. Make sure whenever you're cutting, you secure your cutting surface. Because the last thing you want to do is when you're cutting, you slide and then the knife slides and then you cut your finger. That's not something you want to do. So that's why the paper towel is there. All right, I'm going to grab our chicken, which I have separated right here. You'll see I have a leg and thigh still connected on 2 pieces and then 2 breasts as well. So skin on. You want the skin on for this. What we're going to do is we're going to season our chicken. So I have some salt and pepper here. We're going to do fresh grind salt and pepper. And make sure when you're doing chicken, you're doing both sides. Because the one thing I hear all the time whenever I'm at work, or when I've been at work, is, oh, this chicken's bland. It has no flavor. Well, it's probably because they didn't season it and they were hoping something else like a sauce would carry over that seasoning for it. So I'm going to go ahead, flip them over, and we are going to do the other side. Done and done. So our chicken is seasoned. I'm going to move this over next to the stove. All right. Wash your hands after handling poultry. You want to make sure you're washing your hands. Give it a good wash. Clean up this area. All right. And then before we transition into the next part, do we have any questions so far? Okay, you want to talk about the chicken breakdown. Okay.
Chef,
So-
sorry, there is a question.
Yeah, I see it. I see it.
Okay, awesome.
All right. So with the chicken, I did break down this chicken myself. Hold on, let me move the camera. I did break down the chicken myself. The reason being is I wanted to make sure we had the correct pieces for this cooking demonstration. In the grocery store, they will have chicken broken down in breast, thighs, but the main reason is I wanted it the skin on. If you would, I didn't bring it with me. What aspect would you like to know about the breakdown of the chicken?
On the chat, it mentions the recipe didn't say to take off wings, bone the breast, etc.
On the breast. Okay. All right. Give me 1 second. All right. What I can do right now is I can actually break down one of the legs and the thighs that I have. And that way you can kind of see what you're looking for when you're breaking down a chicken. All right. Yeah, so we'll get into that. So if you want to separate any of the bones from a chicken, they have these little joints in them right here. All right. And those are the joints where you want to cut them at. So in the cases of a drumstick, it connects to the drumstick right about there. So when you're cutting, you want to make sure you find that bone where it bends and moves. And then you're going to just take your knife and make a small incision. And then you're going to follow that. And you're going to cut clean through. And you shouldn't have too much resistance. It shouldn't feel like you're cutting into the bone itself. You're just going to be cutting the small pieces of cartilage. All right. So, all right, I'm gonna go there. Did that help? I do know that I put whole chicken in there, a half of a whole chicken, and that was something I should have changed and edited later. So I do apologize about that. All right. Okay. Any other questions before we move on to the next step? No? Okay, all right, we'll move on to the next step. Let me wash my hands again. Bear with me here. Okay. So I've got the setup on the stove here. How does that look, Candace? Does that look good?
Yes, so that's good. We can see the pots and the pans and you.
All right, so I've moved everything over here so we can begin cooking. What I've started first is I started heating up the pan for the rice. You just want a nice pot that you can put a lid on because we're going to be making rice pilaf. All right, so I started getting that warm. I'll turn the heat down just a little bit because it is a little warm right now. And then I'll start warming up the other pans. You don't have to put them on a high. You just want to put them on a medium heat at first, and then we'll bump up the heat right before we go into cooking them. All right, that's what I'm going to do right now. Okay, so I've got the pan here or the pot for the rice pilaf. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my olive oil. Now, the recipe called for about a tablespoon, so I'm just going to put a little bit in the bottom. It'll see it start to smoke right there. You just want to take your celery, your carrots, and your onions. You're going to put them right in, and you're going to sweat out the onions. Now, we don't want them to burn. We don't want them to brown. We want them to get to a nice translucent color. All right. And I will show you guys that as we get closer to it. I'm going to turn on the fan here. So we're sauteing it. And as you're cooking, you always want to season as you're cooking. So I'm going to take some salt and pepper. I'm going to put it in there while we're sauteing the mirepoix, just a little bit, because chicken stock, which we're going to add in, sometimes has a lot of sodium. You don't want to add too much salt, because one thing you learn in the culinary industry is you can always add, you can never take away. So you just want to make sure that you're not putting too much in there. All right, just enough to help the onions sweat out, bring out the moisture. That's what salt does with vegetables, is it removes some of the moisture from the vegetable, draws the moisture out, helps bring out, concentrate those flavors. So, getting a little close to where we want to be. You'll see right there, the onions are starting to look a little clear, translucent. We haven't started browning too much. It's nice and translucent. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to add in the rice, and I have 1 cup of rice here. Let's put that right in, and we're going to toast the rice. Toasting the rice, the one great thing about doing it is it kind of just heats up the rice and gets it ready for the cooking process. Locks in the flavor, keeps the starch there. It also, the oil now has the aromatics from the celery, the carrots, and the onions, and it puts that into the rice itself. We're going to saute that just a little bit. So you'll start to get, it'll start getting this nice white color to it as well. You'll see it on the bottom where it was hotter. There. And the reason we're starting the rice first is rice takes a little bit to cook. You kind of have to wait for it to absorb all the water and all that stuff. So we're going to start the rice first here. And then we're just going to move it to the back, let it sit and rest and actually finish cooking. You put it on a low heat while you're doing the rest of the stuff here. So check the heat on all your other pans. If they start to feel a little hot, in the kitchen, you can turn them down for a second. Okay. All right. The rice is getting to where we want it to be. Whoop, whoop. See it's in that nice white color. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is go ahead and add the chicken stock. So what we're going to do today, since I have a lot of chicken stock, I'm going to go ahead and do 2 cups of chicken stock. But the normal ratio for cooking white rice, you can do 1 cup of chicken stock and 1 cup of water. And that's all you need. So it's 1 to 2. So for every cup of rice you make, 2 cups of liquid. And there you go. So what we're going to do with the rice, we're going to get all the rice off the sides of the pot, stir it around. We're going to bring that up to a boil. Once we get it to a boil, we're going to turn it down and bring it to a simmer and then put the lid on. And then we're just going to move it to the back on a low heat. All right. So while that's going, we're going to get the rest of the stuff going for the chicken and the Brussels sprouts. So I have here my pan for the chicken. I'm going to turn the heat up. I'm going to turn the heat up on it because now we're going to get ready to use it. And you want to make sure you get the pan nice and hot when you're cooking any protein because you want it to sear and not stick to the pan. If the pan isn't hot enough, the food is going to stick to it. We've got skin on the chicken. It'll fall right off the chicken. So you want to make sure the pan is nice and hot before you put the meat in. That going. While we're waiting, is there anyone who has any questions right now?
I don't see any questions just yet, Chef.
Okay, all right. backs. Okay. Our pan should be getting there for the chicken. It should be getting pretty close right now. I'm going to put the oil in the pan first. You want to coat the pan really generously. So you'll see how much oil I put in there. 3 tablespoons. You can do a little more if you feel comfortable. You'll know it starts to get hot when it has this little runny look to the oil. And then when we want to actually put it in is when you start to see a little bit of wisps of smoke. You don't want it to be too smoky because then it's going to completely be burnt oil, and that you don't want completely burnt oil. You just want to get to it right before that stage. But if it starts to look a little runny, that should be hot enough if you're comfortable there. All right, it's starting to get to that stage. So I'm going to put the chicken in, and I'm going to put in a breast, 2 breasts, and a thigh. What you want to do, make sure whenever you're cooking, when you put the chicken in the pan, you put it in and you lay away from you. So that's anything you're putting in a pan. You lay it away from you to prevent it from splashing the oil on you. You don't burn yourself. And you always want to hear that nice little sizzle when you put it in the pan. So, and then let me rinse off my hands real quick. If you don't hear the sizzle in the pan, just go ahead and take it off and wait till it gets a little bit hotter. What I'm going to do right now, so I have some thyme stems, some rosemary, a little. Now I know sage wasn't on there, but I got a poultry blend when I went to the store, so I have a little bit of sage with it. Because I'm going to actually throw in some herbs while I'm cooking the chicken. And then I also have some whole cloves of garlic. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to crush that garlic. I'm not going to slice it or do anything else. I'm going to crush it real quick and then I'll show it to you. So that's what it looks like crushed. All I did was I took the flat side of my blade, left it on my cutting board, and just pounded it right on top of it. You'll get that nice little crush right there. So, and I'm going to put that in the pan, and what that's going to do is it's actually going to season the oil that we're cooking with. So it imparts all that delicious flavor from the rosemary, the sage, the thyme, and the garlic right into the oil. And eventually what we're going to do is we're going to take the oil and we're going to baste the chicken as we're cooking. I'm going to let it rest for a second because you don't want to mess around with the food when it's getting that initial sear on it. You want it to kind of get cooked first, and then we'll turn it over. So on the recipe, it called for about 7 to 10 minutes. I'm going to leave it alone for about 7 to 10 minutes.
Chef Marc, I do have a quick question for you. Holly would like to know what size of chicken did you use?
What size? So I used a young chicken when I butchered it up. You don't want to use anything smaller. If you use a Cornish hen or anything like that, it just means a smaller cook time for the chicken. And I'm going to go ahead and check it right now.
And in
it's
terms
not
of
quite there yet. So, one of the reasons why I left the garlic whole is because if you slice it up, it'll brown and burn faster. You don't want to have that bitter garlic taste when you cook, when it gets brown. So leaving it whole just gives it a little more time before it gets to that stage. And then we're on a high heat. You want to maybe turn it down just a little bit when you get closer to the sear that you want. So I reduced the temperature between high and medium right there. So. We're getting pretty close to the sear on the chicken itself. And then, not over on that side. Always have a side towel. Pots and pans can get hot on the stove. It's getting to where we need it to be. So I'm going to go ahead and put the lid on it. I'm going to turn the back burner on so you guys can see the chicken a little bit better. And I'm going to move it to the back. You guys see the chicken a little bit better that way? So the chicken is getting to where we want it to be. And I'm going to show you guys. See that nice little brown sear? That means you're getting close. I would say a little bit longer on that side, and then we'll flip it over. All right, we're getting perfect. We're at the spot we want to be. I'm going to go ahead and turn the chicken over. There you go. You got that nice brown sear on there on the chicken. Okay. One thing to note, I can't get this thigh up right now. This means it's not ready to turn. Leave it alone. The pan will release it when it's ready to turn. Okay. There you go. All right, so the thigh didn't get the right color yet. I'm actually just going to turn it back over. Maybe put it more in the middle of the pan. Maybe because it was on the edge. It'll be perfectly fine leaving it for a few more minutes on that side. Then I'll put a little more oil into the pan. Just a little bit. Is what we're going to start doing now to make sure the chicken doesn't start drying out. We're going to take I have a serving spoon here. You can use a regular teaspoon or a spoon you use for your cereal. And you're just going to tilt the pan towards you, scoop up some of the oil, and put it over your chicken. Tilt the pan towards you, and then you're just basting the chicken right now. And that's to help it from drying out on the top side of the chicken. Tilt the pan over the top, just like that. So, and then if you want to get fancy, you can take your spoon, tilt the pan the other way to help sear the chicken on the other side. You can lean it towards the other side and help sear some of the outer edges of the chicken like that. I'm going to go ahead and remove the garlic and the herbs now. They've kind of gotten their use in there. They're starting to dry up, start to brown. So I'm going to go ahead and remove them as much as I can from the pan. And we're good to go on the garlic and the herbs. Perfect. And then we're just going to continue basting our chicken. Tilt the pan towards you. And then we're going to check the sear on this side as well. We're getting, that side's getting good. I noticed on this, whoop, got a little bit of fire there. Notice on this one, it didn't get that edge right there. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to turn it and put it towards the lip of the pan. And that'll help sear that side as well. I'm going to do that for the other one as well. And then just tilt it towards the side. Good to go there. So. All right. All right. I would say we're almost done with the So the chicken, we're getting there to the halfway point right now. I'm going to go ahead and move over to our other pan that we're starting to get warm. I'll turn the heat up to about a medium heat on that one. Get that one going because we're going to get ready to put our Brussels sprouts into the pan. So right now, I'm still at about a medium to high heat in there. You don't want it too high because if the oil starts to burn or everything starts to really get real smoky. So we're just going to leave it medium to high heat. It's still got that nice little sizzle going on in the background. We're just going to continue to baste as well. Our pan should be hot enough for the Brussels sprouts. Take a little bit of oil, coat the pan, roll it around, and then we're going to take our Brussels sprouts and we're going to put our Brussels sprouts right into the pan. You can fill up the pan just a little bit. What I like to do though, is I put them in the pan, I'm actually going to flip them around so that they're the flat side down. We cut them in half. You're just going to arrange them so they cook that way. All right. You can always do it before you put it into the pan, or as you're putting them in the pan, put them flat side down. I'm a little more brave. Okay. And this is the side that we're going to actually char the Brussels sprouts on. Okay. And then, of course, with that, a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper. You can put in a little more oil into the pan, just over the top of the Brussels sprouts. And you're going to get those nice little char on the flat side of the Brussels sprout. All right, we'll go back to our chicken. Our chicken breasts are looking good. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to actually tilt them a little bit in a different direction, kind of sear some of the other sides. So all I've done is I've taken it and I've just flipped it onto its side like that so we can sear that flat side on the bottom right here. That guy right there, put it right there. Take a look at your rice. Ooh, nice and steamy. I'm going to turn the heat down a little bit more on the rice. And that's going to be good to go here in a second. All right, I've gone back to cooking them skin side down on the chicken breast. They are a little bit more plump, a little more thick of a chicken breast, so I think it needs a little more time on each side. We just want to make sure we're doing about an even amount on each side. So I'm going to do probably another 2 minutes, depending on the size of the chicken itself. Last time when I did a practice run on the dish, the chicken breasts were kind of thin, so it kind of cooked a little bit faster that way. But I'm going to do a little bit longer on the skin side, and then I'll flip it back over and do some more on the other side, and then we should be good on the chicken. And adjust the heat accordingly. I need to turn it down a little bit. I'm going to go down to about a medium heat now. Bringing the heat down to the pan. We're just trying to cook. So I'm bringing the heat down to about medium now on the chicken. So, kind of going on that. Does anyone have any questions so far? Anything they need to know? Oh, what happened? All right, we're good.
Do you have to use bone-in chicken, or can you use like a chicken breast, a boneless chicken breast, or does it have to have the bone in?
It doesn't have to have the bone in it. The more important part is that it has the skin on. It doesn't necessarily have to have the bone in it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to check the chicken. I happen to have a thermometer. Just a regular digital thermometer right here. So I'm going to need to check the chicken to see what temperature it's at. You want to cook chicken to 165 degrees for 15 seconds. So, and you always want to check the thickest part of the chicken. You're not going to check the tail end. You want to go near the breast, the big lobe, and see where we're at. almost there. And the thing about the thigh, especially with the thigh, because it is the one with the bone in it, you want to make sure you're not jabbing into the bone, because the bone is going to be colder than the actual meat. You want to actually go kind of close here into the thigh meat, and you're going to get in right there, and that's how you're going to check the temp of your chicken thigh if you're using chicken thigh. Yes, you can. You can put it in the oven. If you have an oven going, you can get a nice sear on it, throw it in the oven with, I would say, 350 degrees, and you can finish it in the oven if you'd like. What I would say, though, if you're going to do that, put it in an oven-safe pan, because the next part that we're going to do requires to use the pan that you cook the chicken in. So that's why we're doing it right here. Let's go ahead and check on our Brussels sprouts. Yeah, our Brussels sprouts are at a perfect spot. So, that's the color we're looking for right there with the Brussels sprouts. A nice little char on the outside. So, I'm going to go ahead and get those stirred around. We got that nice little color all throughout. We'll do a little more salt and pepper on top. And first I'm going to add those carrots that we had on a bias. We're going to add those first. Turn the heat down a little bit on it. Doesn't need to be as hot when you're charring the Brussels sprouts. Okay. Chicken should be getting ready. All right. So the chicken, we should be good to go now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the chicken out to let it rest for a second. Come on. I'm just going to remove it from the pan. Now you can turn the heat down a little bit more on it right now. We don't need it immediately. I'm going to let it rest for right now. Our Brussels sprouts, they're doing really good. I'm going to start making the sauce now for our chicken. So what I have here is some white wine. Now, the reason I said turn down the pan, if you're not ready to move to this stage yet, you need to kind of check on things first before you move on to this stage. Turn it down, and then we're going to bump the heat back up to about a medium to medium-high heat. All right? And we're going to take our white wine, and we're going to deglaze the pan. And what that does is it's just going to remove all the pan drippings we have right here, because that's the flavor for our sauce right there. That's where we're going to get all the good stuff for our sauce. So, I'm going to put it in. It look like that. All right. I'm going to put it in, and then just take a spatula, and you're going to move it around. You're going to try and help release some of that delicious flavor from the chicken that was on the bottom side of the pan. And then we're going to reduce the alcohol by half. All right. So it should get close to a little bit of a syrupy consistency. And we'll take a look at that as we get close. Let's check on our vegetables. Oh, yeah. We are getting there. I would say turn the heat down a little bit more on those. All right. And then I'm going to go ahead and add in the shallots as well. than that. All right, perfect. So the wine is getting going. All right, we're getting close to that. It's been reduced. It's getting closer to that syrupy look. And what we're trying to do is making sure we're burning off all the alcohol and we're leaving the sugar from the wine. And you can see that when deglazing, you've kind of already cleaned that pan, released all that flavor from the pan itself. And that's why I showed you the view before I put in the wine and then after I put in the wine. All right. Cool. So now that we've gotten to that point, I'm going to take the rest of our chicken stock that we had. I'm going to put it in there. There we go. All right. And we're going to let that warm up, bring to a boil, and reduce down just a little bit as well. Good on that. Actually, I think I'm going to switch these over. Got the bigger burner on this side, so I'm going to use that one over here. Look at our vegetables. They got that nice color on it right there. We're starting to sweat the shallots. They're starting to look like translucent like our onions. Our carrots are starting to get a little charred as well. Let's take a look at our rice. Ah, there we go. It's puffed up. It looks delicious right there. I'm going to give it a little stir to help fluff it. Then I'm going to put the lid right back on. So our vegetables are basically done. I'm going to leave them in the pan, but I'm going to turn the heat off on the pan. Pan should hold enough heat for right now, especially on the stove, to where it should keep your vegetables warm. And I'm just going to move it to the back because we're ready to go on those. And we're just trying to finish our sauce, and then we'll be ready to go for the chicken. I'm going to get a couple spoons out because we're going to do some tasting of the sauce as we're making it. We're going to have to taste as we go to make sure things are seasoned properly. You don't want things too salty or too much mustard or things like that. So we need to adjust the seasoning as we go. All right. The sauce is starting to get to that boil point. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to add in the mustard right now. So I have the stone ground mustard right here. I'm going to go ahead and add it right into the sauces. And off to the side. I just like to take the spoon and run it into the sauce itself a little bit. They can see. You know that, right? Yeah, they can see. All right, run it into the sauce a little bit, and then I'd like to bring out a whisk and then whisk the mustard right into the sauce itself. So the great thing about the mustard is the mustard will actually help thicken the sauce itself because mustard is thick. It'll help make the sauce a little more thicker as you're cooking it. So you don't need to add anything like cornstarch or roux or anything like that as you're making the sauce. So we've whisked it in. It should start to look like that color right there. Nice little consistency. We need to reduce it down just a little bit more though. So, and then as we're doing that, we're gonna go ahead and add some of the finishers. I have the heavy cream. I'm gonna take the heavy cream, add that in. All right. I have the chopped parsley and chopped tarragon. I'm not gonna add all of that. That was a lot there. I chopped too much. I'm gonna just take a little bit, good pinch. Put that in as well. I'm going to save a little bit of parsley at the end. All right. We're going to use that to garnish the chicken at the end, give it a nice little color. It's a very rustic dish, so you want to make sure, that's why we added the carrots, you know, gives that nice little, because you eat with your eyes first. It's one of the things I learned in culinary school. Is everyone eats with their eyes first. So you want to make sure the food looks good. If you give them a plate of mush, they're just going to be like, ew, what is that? So you want to make sure everything's got good color, nice, vibrant, delicious looking vegetables. You know, the rice, same thing. Whoop, it's a little hot on the outside. Good color on the rice. All right, we're gonna come check on our sauce, stir it around. Apologize about that. My family decided to have a barbecue today as well while I'm doing this. So they're out having a pool party while I'm in here on the stove. So, had the lid off on the rice. Make sure you keep that nice and warm there. Same thing. Sauce is getting there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to taste the sauce now. I haven't added any salt and pepper to the actual sauce. There is a little bit from the chicken in there and the chicken stock. So I'm going to taste it. Needs a little bit of salt. Needs a little bit of pepper. The one thing I didn't specify, and now I'm going to bring it up, is the white wine that I picked. I picked something a little more sweeter. So I used a little bit of, I used Chablis. Now you can do things like Marsala or port wine. You want a little bit more of a sweeter white wine. You don't want something as dry. So I used Chablis, which is a great cooking white wine. So we'll taste the sauce again. Be careful not to burn yourself. Perfect. And you'll see that the sauce is now, it's been reduced down. You're gonna have to, oh, hold on. Peter, try to do an update. It should look like, it should coat the spoon. So this needs to reduce a little bit more. It's a little too runny. So just a little bit more and we're good to go on the sauce. All right. Clean up my area a little bit. Clean as you go. Make sure at the end you can enjoy your meal and you don't have to clean so much at the end. Bring our chicken back over. All right. So the sauce is going. What I'm going to actually do now, get ready to start plating. So what I like to do to hold the chicken, you don't have to do this. Keep the skin side up. To hold the chicken, I'm actually just going to put it right back in the pan in the sauce. Chicken thigh. That'll hold it. See all the chicken juices from it resting? That's flavor. You don't want to lose that. Put that right in the pan. Get going. All right, and then I'm going to grab our serving plate. So, our serving plate. Go ahead and take some of our rice. Get a nice, generous portion of the rice. Right there. You got to think of your plate like a picture. You don't want things running off to the side, because if you had a picture in your house, you wouldn't want any of the paint or anything on the frame. So you got to think of the rim of your plate like a frame on a picture. So keep everything in, make it look nice and neat. There. Chicken. Go there. All right. One second. Clean the plate up. Voila. We are good to go. Turn the sauce down. Ready to eat. All right. So here, let's move the camera so you can kind of see what it looks like from a bird's eye view. Oop, oop, oop. There we go. Sorry about that. You're set. On over. All right. So we're all set and we're done. Time to enjoy and eat. All right. Is there any questions about the dish itself? Anything I may have missed? Anything further I can go into that might help you out along the way?
From what I can tell, the general consensus is that this was amazing.
Well, thank you so much.
I think everybody's too busy eating.
All right. So we're good to go there.
Anyone have any questions for Chef Marc? No? I know someone wanted to know what type of dog do you have? We saw him running around in the background.
It is he's a mutt. He's got a little bit of poodle mixed in. Went for a hyperallergenic blend to help with the shedding, especially here in Vegas. They got a lot of shedders out here.
Well, I don't see any questions in here, just everyone thanking you for an awesome job that you've done. And thank you so much for spending your Friday evening with us, giving up your barbecue pool time.
Oh, no problem. It's no problem at all. Make sure if you guys take any pictures, you share it with the Hospitality Alumni College. You can send an email to your alumni representative. If they have any further questions that you may want to bounce to me, they can forward those on to me, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions that way. And have a wonderful evening and enjoy your weekend.
Thank you, Chef Marc. We really appreciate it. We'd love to have you back on for one of our future episodes. This was great.
Yeah, just let me know, Candace.
Will do, for sure.
All right, bye.
And thank you, everybody, for joining us once again on Friday evening. We loved having you. Thank you for cooking with us. We are going to be taking a little bit of a break, so there will not be an episode next Friday, but we will be posting a couple more in June. So just stay tuned to your email and to social media for the announcements for the upcoming June episodes. And as always, thank you, like I said, thank you again for joining us. And please post your pictures, post any dishes that you've made so far with us onto our social media. You can find us on @UNLV Hospitality and @UNLV Hospitality Alumni. We're on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter. So we hope to see you in a couple of weeks when we're back with Cook Like a Rebel. Have a great Friday evening and the rest of your weekend, everyone.